Come on, yo, Tad, let's go, man.
Let's go. Let's do it.
We got shit to do. We got a flight to catch, man.
Not now, but right now. Yeah.
Check the files, Mr. Giles, he a winner still. These niggas broke, I'm allergic, pass me a Benadryl. You got it, nigga? Spend a mil. Had all intent to chill, but niggas talking fly like they rent ain't my dinner bill. Kidding, you gotta be. I be moving modestly. Honestly, I'm the one that's pitching in the lobby, being didn't Kings watching me. Basketball games, and then I went and did a robbery all through Harlem, you spotted me. Pan and Willie Burger, hide you back in dirty kitchen, 4 blocks down. Niggas was on a murder mission, facing the 3rd conviction. Me, I'm just swerving different, merging different. Wolf inside the hen house, I'm observing chicken. French out like Turkish chicken, words of wisdom. Fuck around with me and be a murder victim. A fried burger, flip them. Them birds, I get them. The fiends deserve to hit them. The 1st to the 3rd, the workers gonna be working with them. Me, y'all can't come around. Better off just run around. Forgot them from the underground. In 2 days, move 100 pounds. Fucking clowns, up and downs. Talking about is nothing now. Crisscross, I pull the Mac Daddy and make you jump around. 100 keys on the private. Who you loving now? Tom Brady, the grump, bitch, we touching down. My girl said, Kim, you defeating the purpose. How? When you walk in the room, they still getting nervous, cause they know that old killer anytime could resurface. Shout the Swiss though, I'm still eating off the verses, homie. I got more than the fighters and I ain't boxed. I got the upfront, back end, door money and stock. So when Triller went public, never mill out the box. Maybe over your head, but I don't care about no props and no nah. This is not a shot at the locks, cause them is my niggas. They solidified they spot now. Kiss, right? He told you about my crib in Miami, but he ain't mentioned Cali or my villa out in Maui or Vegas or Jersey or my timeshare in Bali or my ranch out in Idaho. I tell my neighbors, howdy. I'm just a go-getter, hustler, money monster. You fucked up, shut up. I'll be your honey sponsor. I'm my only fan. I tell her as I dance with her. I start her OnlyFans. I'll be a manager, clean her up like a janitor. Baby, I ain't no amateur. Look, we going to the top. Just hold on to the banister. Now I got a book cross country, London and Canada. When I suck it in, she said she never had a man in her. Then I abandoned her. Or what it appeared to be. Came to my crib like, why you being weird to me? I sold weed when they used to call the shit dank. Name a year, any year. I ain't have a sick mate. This little verse, big bang. You damn right my shit stink. 40-foot chandeliers, piranhas in the fish tank. I will put an end to you. Only thing I ever told my connect was send it through. Y'all problems are minuscule, baby. It ain't Gilly and Nori. I ain't friends with you. Everybody else 100,000 for the interview now. I don't want to talk. Y'all niggas chatty patties. You got a problem, no problem. I send the addy gladly. Keep the Mac engaged. Fuck all your accolades. It's one big masquerade. They talking from a backer page. The feds thought we were roaches. The crib they had to raid. I still get trauma. They hit my bedroom with flash grenades. But y'all ain't stressing me. God been blessing me. Just one question though. Why would y'all question me? Like how we still in here. Or how we still appear. Or how the fuck you turn Sugar Dugger a millionaire, right? He can't rap or rhyme, he can't dance or sing, but every morning we get up, nigga, and do our thing. Fleet Farms, you coming our way, reroute, shoot you in your leg and chill with you till you bleed out. Pussy niggas keep out, you know just what we bout. Pop you on one line, the other phone Steve Stout. Nothing but exotic up inside the wee house, aka the tree house. You need help, then reach out, nigga, we here. And, hold on. You know what I'm saying?
Show Cosmic, Strictly Skills, Kev. You already know what it is. Man, Slippin' Falls accent, get you that top dollar for any case. Shout out to UIGI Social Club, making it move out there. That mortgage notes, getting you that money, getting you that crypto. You already know what it is. Shout out to 21 Paragon Studios. But let me tell you something, right? It's all about the cake. What? What? Yeah, and we ain't got a
It is 8 p.m. Back like I never left. What's good, everybody? You got time in the building already coming through. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for reading. Reading. We read. You illiterate bastards. Where's that? Where's that?
It's that real shit, yo.
Butterfly in the sky.
Come on!
I can go twice as high.
Let's get it on.
Take a look,
Nigga,
in a book,
my nigga.
reading rainbow.
You think it's a game?
I can go anywhere.
Suck my dick,
Friends to know,
my nigga.
ways to grow.
Nigga.
Reading rainbow.
Here we go again.
I can be anything.
Same old shit. What?
Take a look,
Nigga,
in a book,
my nigga.
reading rainbow.
This is the shit I be talking about.
Reading
You think it's a
rainbow.
game? You think it's a reading game? What you really want? What you really want? Ride or die. Talk is cheap, motherfucker.
All right, y'all. Let's get it. Y'all know what time it is. It's Wednesday night, 8 p.m. We almost finished with our book, Self-Made Man. Again, this book is by Nora Vincent. Nora Vincent was a lesbian woman, feminist that disguised herself as a man for a total of 18 months to understand or get to know the male experience. After getting out of the experience, she realized that men have it harder. It's not easy to walk in men's shoes on a day-to-day basis. And she deleted herself at the age of 50 in Switzerland because honestly, she started to hate women because she realized how bad they treated men in society and relationships and everything. So let's get to it. What's good with you, D? So you got my boy Time always coming through. Appreciate you, big dog. Fishing the fit. Appreciate you. Where we left off at page 211. 211. This is chapter 6, I believe it is, work. And it started off with the job that she went to go. I don't know. She went to go interview and to gather and gain to get some money and to see how men interacted at work. Gotta make sure I don't spill my water. I spilled my water last week. So page 211, we got about another 70 pages to go. So let's get to it, man. Oversexed and vicious as he could be, Ivan kept me going because he had as much contempt for the whole ethos of the place as I did. Not that we were above its momentary charms, especially when they were the only charge that you were likely to get out of the day. When you were selling, or as Ivan called it, when you were in the zone, you felt like a holy vessel of mammon, and it was unmistakably sexual. Every sale was a con, but a slight different con, depending on the person who answered the door. You had to dance around their weak points and punch it home when you saw the opening. Every sale made you more confident, and more confidence produced more sales. The coaches were right enough about that. It happened to me one day when I was out with Ivan again, taking egg on my face. Rejection after rejection. What's good, Fatty? What's good with you, man? Make sure y'all subscribe to Team Fatty, the Untouchables, Unbreakable, Untouchable. Expect the unexpected in the building. Peace. I appreciate y'all coming through. Yeah, Fatty, we reading Nora Vincent, Self-Made Man. We in the 6th chapter. It happened to me one day when I was out with Ivan again, taking egg on my face. Rejection after rejection. until I felt sure that I would never make a sale. Ivan had been making ceaseless fun of me all day, watching me pitch on the doorsteps as he sat smoking and smirking in the car. Take control, dude, he'd say. Have a pair. Jesus. At one house, we drove up to an old woman who was pacing her front yard for a little exercise. A prime buyer, Ivan assured me. But before I could get past the first sentence, she shut me down cold. We're not interested. I was still too fresh and embarrassed to know that you never stopped there. So I just said, oh, okay then. Thanks anyway. As we drove off, Ivan said, unbelievable. You just got bitch slapped by a 90-year-old lady. And that's how it went for the rest of the afternoon, until around 5 o'clock, by which time Ivan was singing rap songs to goad me. All right, here we go, he'd say as we pulled up at the next inevitable defeat. Shake your ass. Watch yourself. Shake your ass. Show me what you're working with. Then finally, at what felt like the 100th house I'd pitched that day, some guy who didn't look like the type just rolled over and handed me the $40. I couldn't believe it. Neither could Ivan. And I have to admit, it felt good to relieve someone of a little cash for once, even if it meant relinquishing a piece of my cherished moral superiority in the process. The corruption of the sale caught me up very quickly after that, and in the space of a few hours, I went from being the gawky virgin who pops his cherry in the cat house to the slick postman who always rings twice. I made 6 more sales before quitting time, winning even Ivan's smug endorsement in the process. I proved my manhood, took control, showed my balls, whatever. The very thing I had failed to do repeatedly in the field, not only at Clutch, but at the other Red Bull firms I visited. At Board Consulting, I had spent my second day on the job out with another 23-year-old guy who, in his high octane, hormone driven approach to the business, was very much like Ivan and Doug. He too saw himself retiring in his early 30s. He too sexualized everything into a zero-sum game. Like Ivan, he was confused and frustrated by my inability to show the requisite balls in pitching customers. You're a man, he'd say. You gotta pitch like a man. He was very clear on this point. Girls pitched differently. They flirted, they cajoled and smiled and eased their way into the sales underhandedly, which was exactly how I started out trying to do it. I tried initially to ask for the sale the way I asked for food in a restaurant as a woman, or the way I asked for help at a gas station. I'd plead with them. But coming from a man, this was off color. It didn't work. It bred contempt in both men and women. And in this sense, it was very much like trying to pick up a woman in a bar. Nice charm. How you doing, bro? Give you a wrench. I see Mr. Ray in the building. How you doing? I know y'all, so y'all know y'all get a wrench. Yes, sir. You're exactly right, Mr. Fatty. Appreciate it. You're exactly right. Nora Vincent. R.I.P. Nora Vincent. Yes, absolutely. As a guy, I had to shed my sympathy for myself and the victim, and the appearance of weakness and need. People see weakness in a woman and they want to help. They see weakness in a man and they want to stamp it out. When I made my first sale that afternoon with Ivan, I stepped over this divide. I got back the attitude I had in my interviews, and the more I saw it working in people's minds and on their faces, turning them over to my side, the more I used it to my advantage. Team Fatty with the 20 ball. Appreciate you, bro. The one thing about Fatty, he gonna support you if you support him. Shout out to Fatty. Make sure y'all check out Team Fatty, the Untouchables, here on YouTube. BE, what's happening with you, Playboy? Peace, God. Nice Tom said, oh yeah, I heard it. It's many who regret that surgery. Facts. I got back the attitude I had in my interviews, and the more I saw it working in people's minds and on their faces, turning them over to my side, the more I used it to my advantage. After I made 2 sales in a row, I felt high. I'd broken the curse. I was on a roll. I'd stopped asking for the sale like a girl and started taking it like a man. I seduced 2 people and I could do it again. What's more, I didn't need the boss's pitch. I could make up my own, and it would sound better and more spontaneous than anything the dolts at Clutch could devise. People knew bad bullshit when they heard it. Good bullshit was what I needed. This was the chain of thought, and the chain of thought became an act, a performance, a man's performance supplanting a woman's confidence, competence, control. Not my former supplication, apology, and need. Success lifted my spirits. Good spirits got my juices flowing, and my juices wrote their own evil script. I got creative, and creativity, however seedy and low it may be, is something that very few people see coming. I had learned as much from Ivan. I be who I be. How you been, bro? Peace, God. Good to see you. At the third house, I bounded out of the car and across the lawn towards a woman who was working outside in her garden. I was in a good mood, and she could tell. My smile was genuine, and she responded to it warmly. How you doing? I asked. Not bad, she said. How are you? This was a miracle already. None of my other greetings had evoked courtesy. Everyone else had cut through my crap right away. What do you want? Or what are you selling? I had managed somehow to finesse those snags at the previous 2 houses and make the sale anyway. But now I didn't need to. This woman was relaxed. She was taking my lead. We were standing there like 2 people without agendas who had all the time in the world, right? That energy is a mug in real life, right? That energy is a mug, right? So I asked her about her garden. She had an accent, so I asked her where she was from. It turned out that she was English, so I told her about having grown up there myself. We talked about this for a few more minutes as she went back to her planting, kneeling in front of one of her flower beds and scooping the soil with a trowel. Finally, when there was a lull in the conversation, she nodded at the coupon books in my hand and said very politely, "So, what do you have there?" I looked down at them as if I'd forgotten they were there. "Oh, well, I'm out here doing some market research," I said. "And these are the prototypes. I'm trying to get a sense of what people think of them. Can I show you a copy and maybe you give me your opinion?" This was completely untrue, of course, but it would ease her into the pitch, which I planned to give at the end of our conversation, not the beginning. I had learned this lesson from my previous flops. When I made the pitch up front, most people put up a wall and denied me the sale before I even gotten a chance to show them the product. I learned this as a single guy too, that the in-your-face pitch was the salesman's equivalent of accosting a woman in a bar with a 10-ton come on and leading a charge with a cheesy pickup line. You'd be dead before you reach the end of your sentence. So I reasoned if I took the sale out of the equation at first and simply asked the customer for her opinion, she would let down her guard. And I was right. She did. Hey, Miss Doris, how you doing? Appreciate you. Miss Doris of the Untouchables, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for the $5 ball. It is appreciated. Sure. What is it? She said. I leaned over and leafed through the coupons, pointing out the best ones and asserting that the book, if used properly, would make up its $40 value many times over. That part was true. The books actually were a good deal, but when you pitched it like a wimp or a teleprompted clutch head, You never get the chance to point this out to anyone. On the other hand, I thought if you did get the chance to point it out, people would be hard pressed to deny it. Once again, I was right. So I said, what do you think? Does this seem like a good value? Yeah, she said, it looks like it. And there it was, done. I was in control. I had her right where I wanted her. She admitted that the product was desirable. Gotta get as moderator. She's a managing moderator because I've seen her do work. I was in control. I had her right where I wanted her. She admitted that the product was desirable. Now, if I offered to sell it to her, she would, by her own admission, be passing up a deal if she didn't buy it. All right, I said. Well, here's the thing. We really like people to try the books out to see how they work and maybe give us pointers on how to improve them. So we're offering these few prototypes for sale. Do you think you'd be interested in trying one out for us and let us know what you think? And what do you know? She would. She did. Out came the checkbook. And down in manly glory went another Ned score. It was a slam dunk. Dude, said Ivan, you're the man. And for a few degraded hours, I guess I was. Hey, just I was good, bro. Hello, my sister. God help me. At the end of the day, I gave my earned cash to Ivan. I didn't want anything to do with it. Besides, he needed it more than I did. And when it came to selling the male mystique, he had taught me practically everything I know. It's a little frightening, actually, how often I thought back on those days with Ivan, heard those words, take control, or show your balls, echoing in my mind in my everyday life as a woman. They are not idle words. They do work. They work in a lot of situations that might otherwise control a person. They are Ned's lingering voice taking over, almost like an alternate personality, getting the job done when I can't. They linger irritatingly, like music heard at the supermarket, and they remind me that perhaps the strongest remaining male advantage is purely mental. Thinking makes it so. Oh, I can't even. Somebody at the door. The next morning, Davis gave me the full star treatment in the morning rap sessions. I got a guy, a highly motivated type of guy, Mr. Ned Vincent. Yesterday, he went out with Ivan and dropped 7 times, put more than $90 in his pockets. Juice by that. Juice, yelled the reps amid a round of applause. I had been coached for this moment. Davis had told me what to say on cue when he singled me out for the high roller speech. I was to credit my success to the system, working the so-called law of averages, which, according to company definitions, meant that 1 out of every 10 people would buy this product pretty much no matter what you said to them. The idea being that if you pitched 100 people in a day, you were bound to sell 10 books just by default. Whipping yourself onto the next house after house, was calling working the law of averages. Sooner or later, you'd make the sale. Telling the other reps that working the law of averages had worked for you on a big day was central to sustaining morale. Telling the truth, that is, saying that you had sold as many books as you had because you just gotten better and better at lying as the day wore on, wasn't company policy. It didn't engender office pride, even though, of course, learning to lie better was what everyone who did well was really doing. Not that the law of averages didn't work. It had to at some point. But very few of the people who sold 10 books on any given day had really visited 100 people. They cut corners, and those corners were the hard facts rounded into S curves by the end of a good day's work. But of course, I said what I was supposed to say, and everyone duly patted me on the back and high-fived me until my palms were stinging, and I wanted to garrote Ned with his own tie. Doug, the ex-Marine who was usually the high roller, approached me suspiciously that morning, wondering if I was onto his secrets. Good job, man. What's working for you? He was wearing a shapeless powder blue suit with a white window pane check. I made people think that I was giving them something rather than taking something from them, I answered. He was stopped by this for a second, as if I quoted him a price in a foreign currency. You could see the calculations pass over his face and then the flicker of recognition. He decided that this was a useful remark, even though you could tell he didn't quite know what it meant. He socked it away in his little ferret brain for future use, probably in some seminar he'd be giving been giving before long at a Sheraton in Cleveland. He changed the subject, fixing me with his opaque eyes. Yo, man, I'm taking you out today, and we're going to be on a golf course by 4 o'clock. The bosses were behind this, I suspected, wooing me through him because they couldn't be bothered. He was going to show me the life of a high roller, the fruits of the promised income in the form of a niblick and a cigar. I couldn't face this prospect. Striding the fairways with this slate-eyed scraper telling me his boot camp stories and correcting my swing. What's good, Marcus? How you doing, God? But the day didn't go as expected. We stopped for gas on the way out to our territory, and he tried to push off a few books while we were there, pitching other people who were filling their tanks. Nobody bought. We weren't going to make it home before 10 at this rate, let alone to the golf course, unless we sold to every souse, rake, and divorcee in the clubhouse. I couldn't face that either. In the car, Doug told me stories about his time in the field, all of them again about sex. He said he walked up to the house once and heard a couple fighting loudly inside. He could hear it all the way up the walk. You fucking bitch. This and you fucking cunt. That. When he rang the doorbell, the door flew open right away, and the lady of the house was standing there naked. The husband was in the background near the stairs, watching Doug look at his wife, or as Doug told it, watching him try to not look at his wife. Doug made his pitch looking down at the floor or directly into the woman's eyes. She's pretty good looking, isn't she? The guy said to Doug. Sir, said Doug, I really wasn't looking. This was classic territorial guy stuff, like the men on the street who didn't look into my eyes when they thought I was a guy. You didn't look another man in the eyes, and you didn't look too long at his woman. You looked long enough to register your envy in his eyes, maybe, but no longer. A guy wanted to know that you thought his woman was hot, and even that you wanted her, my apologies, but more than that would cross the line and you'd be in trouble. Doug knew this instinctively, as any guy would. By the time Doug had already made whatever panic pitch he was going to make, the woman had reached for her checkbook, mostly out of spite. Doug figured piss off her husband with the needless purchase, and she bent over to write the check on the hall table. The guy smacked her on the ass and looked at Doug. She likes that, don't you? He said. What's good, Marcus? How you doing, bro? Of course, all of this was probably a lie, just more guy talk, a projected fantasy. What door-to-door salesman doesn't want to find a naked lady at home? At around noon, Doug pulled into the brand new subdivision, nestled into a crook of land behind the major thoroughfare. He was clearly poaching on another rep's territory, but that was one of his shortcuts. He'd buy his own books, even at a loss sometimes, I suspected, poach, whatever it took to better himself in the boss's eyes and get to assistant management. It was all he had to live for. Money was all that seemed to matter to him, and without a college education or any prospect of one, self-made schemes like this one were his only road to riches. He swallowed everything Dano said. Without cash, there would be no house, no boat, no hot wife, no kids, no sense of himself as a provider, and therefore no sense of himself as a man. Once he parked curbside, Doug told me to circle around the house counterclockwise. He would go the other way and we'd meet in the middle. I started on my route, but when we were mostly making no home lists, writing down the numbers of all the houses where no one was home so that we could circle back that evening around cocktail hour and maybe clean up. I did about 10 houses and only 2 people were home, neither of whom was interested in the coupons. It was a sweltering day. My beard was melting on my face and I was wearing a big sweat hole in the back of my shirt under my blazer. After the 10th house, I gave up and sat on the end of someone's driveway in the shade of a baby tree. The sub was so new it barely had sod, a surreal touch that lent an extra dose of existential despair to the whole proceeding, as if this wasn't Earth at all and you were dead and didn't know it, and the afterlife was this hellish little plot around suburbia for all eternity. I waited for Doug, who had gone all the way to the end of the Serpentine cul-de-sac to make his way back into sight. Hanging out under a tree was something I'm sure a lot of the salesmen did on certain days. Ivan had said sometimes he just sat in his car by the side of a deserted road and smoked cigarettes, hiding from the heat and humiliation. It was enough to make anyone as bitter as he was, and I could see how some of the older reps who were trying to support families on this work would sit there consumed by self-loathing and impotence. Doug came back after about an hour or so, having dropped only one book in that time. He lost face in front of the new guy. The shine of the morning had worn off of him. His pestering sparkle was gone and his eyes were a little fiercer than before, almost substantive, with a pinprick of resentment at their centers. I wonder, given all the potency, metaphors, and bravado that the male salesman brought to the turf, whether accepting this kind of defeat wasn't easier for a woman. Winning or conquering wasn't part of our cultural definition. It wasn't tied to our genitals. There was a residual sexism in this for women, a benign twist on being thought useless in the world of work for so many centuries. If we did it, people would say, it's pretty good for a girl. And if we failed, we were still commended for trying. But a guy, he was a useless clod if he couldn't perform. And he said that to himself at least as harshly as anyone else did. Sitting under a tree in the middle of a workday, glooming over the little or nothing you had to show for yourself, was about as emasculating as it could get. I could quit with impunity. So I did. I did what 100 of desperate people had done before me. I said to myself that it just wasn't worth it. I didn't want to walk around in the heat anymore. I didn't have anything left to say to Doug, nor did he to me. It was just going to be more splitting up and walking around. Ned's Bush apotheosis had come and gone. I asked Doug to give me a ride back to the office, and he did with very little protest. I walked in, dumped my merch in the empty conference room, and left. The bosses weren't there, but they were used to people quitting, so they weren't going to make a fuss or need to know why. They knew why. That's why they had an ongoing ad in the paper. On page 222. I decided not to reveal myself to Clutch Management. They didn't have time for or an interest in anything that wasn't about profit. What were they going to say? Yeah, but how many books did you sell today, and how'd you do it? To them, each of us was just another pair of grubby hands potentially pulling in their cash. Gender didn't seem to have any deeper implication for them. They, unlike the reps who used it stereotypically to their advantage in the field, weren't particularly interested in or, as far as I could tell, even conscious of its dictates. During one of my interviews at Borg, I had explicitly asked the boss, Diane, what she thought about the difference between men and women in the business. How well they fared comparatively when they use what they use to their advantage. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome. You want some soy sauce?
Yeah, please.
You're welcome.
Gracias, mi amiga.
You want something to drink?
I'll be done with this in a minute, so it's no big deal. Thank you, though. Appreciate you. Love you too. Where we at? Where we at? I lost my page. We was on page 2. Lost my damn page, people. Hold on. $222. Where was I at? All she said was, I don't see gender. I really don't. And she meant it. She believed it to be true. And certainly in hiring practice and company decorum, it was true. Since the staff at Borg, unlike the staff at Clutch, was pretty evenly split down the middle, half men, half women. And each of us was expected to live up to the same expectations. At Borg, nobody expected to live up to the same expectations. At Borg, nobody exclaimed, "Holy sheep," when a woman kicked ass in the field. But it was unlikely that Diane was blind to people's sex when she dealt with them as people one-to-one. That is, unless she was employing some highly sophisticated brand of self-hypnosis that eludes the rest of us. In my dealings with her as Ned, I did not observe that to be the case. I thought she treated me like a guy. And I say this with some confidence because I met and worked with her late in my career as Ned and had come to recognize the signs pretty well by then. The supplely controlling smile, the slightly coddling gaze, both of which said, "You're a man and I'm a woman, and this is how we talk to each other." This, of course, wasn't the only way that women interacted with Ned, but it was one of them. One of what was usually only a handful of ways. Sometimes, as on my dates, they were suspicious or superior. Sometimes they were distant, protected but polite. The way the women in the bars had sometimes been when I'd approached to buy them a drink. Other times, they were consciously flirtatious, touching my sleeve or my collar for emphasis. And men were no different. They too assessed you for what, not who you were, and spoke to you accordingly, by rote, like they were addressing a set of characteristics, not a person. It was as people had 5 to 10 scripts in their mind, each labeled for a type, and all of them geared towards one sex or the other. When they saw you, they choose whichever script fit the best and work from it unconsciously. For guys, there was the buddy bonding script and the "hey, you're not gay, are you?" script, and not a whole lot else. In all my experiences, passing back and forth between male and female, often going out in public as both a man and a woman in one day, I rarely, if ever, interacted in any significant way with anyone, even store clerks, who didn't treat me and the people around me in a gender coded way or freeze uncomfortably when they were uncertain whether I was a man or a woman. Now, what do you think? Like, people don't got eyes? Some people live in Delulu land for real. Like women live in Delulu land. Like, women are different from men. Women require things different than men. Men require things different than women. We treat each other differently. And why can you say this with a straight face, right? When you say that, especially in society at large, right? That you need to speak to a woman differently than you do a man, and then say it should be a genderless interaction. That means the same disrespect I can show a man, I should be able to show a woman, and vice versa, correct? Like, make it make sense. But like I said, when I listen to people and I read these things and I see who they are, right? A lesbian who was playing a man who, first really hated men, but then when she fronted like a man, understood what men were going through, and then looked at the very sex that she was attracted to, which was women, it broke her entire mold. It broke her entire reality, right? When in reality, she's the one that's living out of order. Y'all get what I'm saying? Like like, does anybody else get irritated just with the things they try to push us, these agendas, when we know they're incorrect, they're wrong on all facets, and then people still try to claim them as right? And then try to persecute you and make you look bad and dox you and have you canceled because you're standing on reality? Yes, women get talked to different than men. Yes, men handle men differently than they do women. No shit. It was the freezing that always struck me most. People will literally stand paralyzed for a moment, sometimes in mild, sometimes in utter panic when they don't know what sex you are. You can see the confusion registering, or with polite people being suppressed. And then you can see the adjustment being made either for male or female, or for an extremely uncomfortable and robotic neutral ground between the two. If they don't know what sex you are, they literally don't know how to treat you. No shit. They don't know which code to opt for, which language to speak, which specific words and gestures to use, how close they can come to you physically, whether or not they should smile, and how. In this, we are no different than dogs, with the notable exception, of course, that no dog has ever been mistaken about anyone's sex. Thank you for answering your own question, man. So prevalent was a dog can sniff another dog's ass, and the other dog won't get offended. A dog want to know what it's dealing with. Are you another male dog, or you a bitch? So prevalent was this gender coded behavior that I came to ask myself whether it isn't almost as impossible for any of us to treat each other gender neutrally as it is to conceptualize language without grammar. Linguist Noam Chomsky is famous for positing that all language shares certain grammatical principles in common, and that children are born with a knowledge of those grammatical principles intact. This inborn knowledge, he argued, explains the success and speed with which children learn language. In Chomsky's terms, then the human brain is hardwired to think grammatically, or more generally, to slot information and stimuli into certain categories of thought. This is how it functions. This is how it functions, and how we, in turn, are able to think. In this sense, I wonder, could there be a pre-programmed and possibly inescapable grammar of gender burned on our brains? And it is every encounter prescripted as a result. Yes, it is. DNA and blood counts for something, right? These things are passed down through generations, from father to son, from mother to daughter, the understandings of survival, right? So, of course, when you look out in the world today and they're trying to make something that was never meant to be neutral, right? A world that's built of positives and minuses, negatives and positives, and to make them all not exist. These are the things that keep nature going on its simplest level. The things we know are the things that keep nature going between people at its simplest level. And these weirdos don't realize that. To my mind, the Red Bull environments were unmistakably sex, even in their more subtle incarnations at places like Board. Diane did see gender, and she treated her employees like sex beings, often flirting with the men as a means of exerting control and bonding superficially with the women for the same reason. As in everyday life, not every interaction was loaded, and not every interaction was loaded in the same way. but there were gender-coded patterns of behavior happening most of the time. Currents running underneath the words and gestures. And if you weren't looking for them, as I was, standing inside someone else's suit, you couldn't mistake their intent. They told you what you were and how to behave. With their mash dabs, modus operandi, and quasi-cultish environments, the Red Bull companies were hardly representative of average American office culture or corporate environments. For one thing, we were rarely in the office. For another, we lived mostly off the grid when it came to getting paid and paying taxes, and even reporting for work. Almost everything in these places was an exaggeration of what you'll find in large, respected, well-known, and established companies of long standing, the kind of places I worked in my early career before becoming a writer, and my only point of comparison. The Red Bull companies had a culture all their own, though that culture was always seeking to spread itself farther and wider, and was doing so, not only across the country, but the world, promoting new young managers, opening new offices, and hiring more young minions to shout juice on every continent. Everything Red Bull was exaggerated. The trash talk, the pace, the motivational hype. But then I suppose that Glengarry Glen Ross, that's Glengarry Glen Ross for you, a foreshortened view to sharpen the focus. There I saw things rough, much the way I've seen them in the strip club. Would I have seen them quite so unadulterately at a white shoe law firm or a blue chip company? I doubt it. For one thing, no one could blast the song Other People's Pussy in the boardroom at such places, or prostitute the female employees at power lunches as brazenly as we use Tiffany to sell coupons and get away with it for long, even in jest. Yet somehow, I didn't have a great deal of trouble imagining highly paid professionals talking just as dirty as we did when they were alone together in someone's office, or whooping it up over cocktails after work, or, as some executives have been known to do, taking a long lunch at the titty bar. Nor do I have trouble imagining that in more insidious ways, women are still objectified and used to gain strategic advantage in the upper echelons of white-collar America. Sexual harassment law has pushed a lot of blatant sexism and boys' club culture under the table, but most of us don't kid ourselves that isn't there. Nor would it be fair to assume that simply because of necessity, I took jobs that didn't require advanced degrees. Working people of all income levels and educational backgrounds don't bring sexually charged and gender-coded ideas and behaviors to the office. They must. They can't hardly help it. Did that make sense? I didn't ignore what I took jobs that didn't require advanced degrees. Working people of all income levels and educational backgrounds don't bring sexually charged and gender-coded ideas and behaviors to the office. They must. They can't hardly help it. That didn't make sense. Or that they don't bring it. I guess I don't know. And neither can we. Always the supposed exceptions to the rule in our own eyes. We operate in most ways, but especially at work, within the lines that are drawn for us, and gender roles are no exception. Our expectations for ourselves as men and women are largely those of our parents or caregivers who, as numerous psychological experiments have shown, are more than likely to have done things as crudely conditioning and silly as dressing us in blue and giving us trucks to play with if we were boys, or if we were girls, dressing us in pink and giving us dolls instead. Whatever, chick. I know what you're trying to do, but still. Selling door to door as Ned helped me to live more of an average man's life for a spell. I got to be one of the slick boys in sales, to see the target girls across the room and myself in them. I got to feel the workplace pressures of manhood and understand firsthand that they are still as tied as they ever were to male virility, and hence self-esteem. I saw the women around me working by a different motivation, disproving still that ever implied assumption of their inferiority and deflecting persistent sexual objectification. I remember having been motivated similarly myself. I saw the clashing styles of the male and female salespeople who tried to teach me to be a man. I grew a pair of balls for a while and felt the high that well-wielded genitals can induce. And perhaps most important, for the one and only time in my life as Ned, I felt empowered as a man, though I attributed this feeling far more to the clothes I wore than to the circumstances in which I wore them. My jacket and tie had a surprisingly powerful effect both on me and on the people's perceptions of me. Yeah, you can keep saying you grew a pair of balls. You ain't gonna know till you got kicked in them. Thinking back on the experience and how absurd it is that a man's attire can so thoroughly make him, I am reminded of a passage in the Jerzy Kosinski novel Cockpit, which I came across after completing my work experience as Ned. In the novel, the main character pulls a stunt very much like my own and gets a similar reaction from the public. He has a military uniform custom made for him by a tailor, though he cobbles it together from various designs, using, for example, the lapels of a British uniform, the pockets of a Swedish uniform, and the collar of a Brazilian one, so as to make it unrecognizable as any country's actual uniform. Then he wears it in public wherever he goes for the next few weeks. When he returns, uniform clad for the first time, to the hotel where he has been staying, the concierge is so blinded by the uniform that he doesn't recognize the man himself until he gives him his name. Thereafter, the concierge insists on treating the man with exaggerated courtesy. These reactions persist with nearly everyone the man meets while in uniform. The parking attendant brings his car around without being asked, ignoring 6 other waiting customers in the process. In restaurants with long lines, he is seated immediately. Airlines give him preferential seating on fully booked flights, and perhaps most outrageously, his word is taken as true without question, even when he goes out of his way to tell whopping lies. My experience was much the same, though not as grandiose. A suit or a jacket and tie is a uniform, quite literally, in fact, since the first men's suits were derived from military dress. My business attire gave me credibility and respectability. It was a disguise for my disguise, and in it, I, the impersonator, was invisible, therefore not by any means invulnerable. I soared briefly. Then I got dropped on my ass and didn't get up. I was one of the quitters, I guess, not a top guy. The only contact I had with anyone at Clutch after I left was with Ivan. We spoke briefly on the phone a few days later, and he told me the only thing the bosses had to say about my disappearance was, yeah, well, he wasn't that impressive. That is the end of chapter 6. We have chapter 7. You guys want to keep going? Or we can start chapter 7 next week. Y'all let me know. It's only 7 of y'all in here, so I would prefer to start on chapter 7 next week, to be honest with you. What y'all thinking? We only 10-minute shorts. What y'all think? What y'all think? Say it's on me. I'm gonna be honest with you, Charm. I prefer to start chapter 7 as a whole next week, if that's all right with y'all. That's 15. Damn, my birthday. Damn. Well, my birthday on a Saturday. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, my birthday on a Saturday. All right, man. So we'll start this back up next week, next Wednesday. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Welcome. Shout out to Team Fatty with the $20 super chat. Shout out to Miss Doris. Doris. How are you, my sister? I appreciate that. So we'll be back. We'll be back next week, man. I'm gonna do probably another live tomorrow. I got a bunch of stuff I want to review. So I'll probably be back tomorrow, man. Make sure y'all check the your notifications. I'm gonna put something up tomorrow. So make sure y'all come through and check me out. Again, thank y'all so much for y'all time. I appreciate it. You can be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. Now I appreciate that. We out of here.
Nora Mary Vincent was an American writer. She was a weekly columnist for the Los Angeles Times and a quarterly columnist on politics and culture for the national gay and lesbian news magazine, The Advocate. She was a columnist for The Village Voice and Salon.com. Her writing appeared in The New Republic, The New York Times, The New York Post, The Washington Post, and other periodicals. She gained particular attention in 2006 for her book, Self-Made Man, detailing her experiences when she lived as a man for 18 months. The experience led Vincent to have a nervous breakdown, and she fell into a deep depression. Nora was a radical feminist who believed that men had a much easier life than women. She set out to prove that hypothesis by disguising herself as a man for 2 years. In her book about the experience, she explains that she actually learned that men have it harder. In fact, the experience was so bad, she had to stop at 18 months because she was starting to hate women due to how badly the women treated her when they thought she was a man. Vincent also stated that she had gained more sympathy and understanding for men and the male condition. Men are suffering. They have different problems than women have, but they don't have it better. They need our sympathy, they need our love, and they need each other more than anything else. They need to be together. Nora died by assisted suicide at a clinic in Switzerland on July 6, 2022, aged 53. Her death was not reported, however, until August 2022.